A fan-favorite character has officially returned in this week's episode of Samurai Jack Season 5. The Scotsman. So, we know about the Scotsman. He's one of the most reoccurring characters in Samurai Jack in the first 4 seasons. He constantly popped up, and he had this relationship with Jack. He was a good friend to Jack, and he's an iconic character. I always loved episodes that were focused around him because he was just epic, and I loved his accent. I loved the way his character's, personality was. He was a wonderful contrast to Jack and how his personality was, and I can't wait to see how the Scotsman is going to interact with Jack, knowing how Jack's personality is now. But before I get into that, before I talk about his death and all that, let's talk about the daughters. So, the daughters, there's a lot of daughters, and we know that the Scotsman has a wife. We know about this, because there was an episode focused on her in the earlier seasons of Samurai Jack. And we know the Scotsman really loves her, so I don't think he has more than one wife, or he has a girl on the side, or anything like that. That would mean that all of these daughters are from his one wife. And I'm like, whoa. She is impressive. Like, the Scotsman's wife is very impressive to be able to have that many children, because there is enough daughters there to fill up a big army. It's an army of his children. That's fucking insane. Like, that's insane. So, go with the community right now. A big meme going on in the Samurai Jack community, let me say, extra thick. Okay, now that I got that, meme out of the way, I want to admit that just threw me for a loop when I saw all those daughters and all that was with the Scotsman. I'm like, yo, like, holy crap, this man has had so many daughters. In some ways, I feel very bad for his wife, I do. But enough of that, though. Let's talk about the Scotsman's death. So the Scotsman, he died. And I'm gonna be completely honest here. When I saw this man walking up to Aku, or actually rolling up to Aku, and he's just bad-mouthing him, putting him down, just roasting Aku. Like, this man is using everything he can to roast Aku, but he just doesn't have the strength anymore to be able to fight Aku because of how much he has aged. He's not like Jack to where time has stopped, and so obviously age has gotten to him to where he can't perform like he did in the past. And he goes up to Aku, he just starts roasting him, trying to stall time, and Aku, you could tell by the way his entire face was drawn that he was just like, I'm just so tired of this shit, like, I just don't have time for this, I don't care about this. His overall face was like, I could literally give a rat's ass about what is going on, what you're saying. And after he was done roasting Aku, Aku's like, you know what, you're gonna roast me, I'm gonna roast your ass, and he just burnt the man and lasered him, and then he became a skeleton, and then to ash, and I'm like, did one of my favorite characters just die? Like, I legit got sad. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you bring the Scotsman back just to do that? I was like, that's messed up. That's really messed up. And when you see the sword just hit on the ground and all that, the blade, you're like, he just died. He's dead. And I'm like, no, that's fucked up. Like, that's really fucked up. And as everything was getting emotional, all of a sudden, he pops up, and he's like, the blade! Celtic magic! And I'm like, oh. Well, at least he's in his prime. I mean, he's dead, but he's not dead. Okay. Okay, just Celtic magic. Maybe that explains how he had so many daughters with his wife. Celtic magic. That explains a lot. It does. Can we throw that on there? Celtic magic? Anyways, though, the Scotsman, he's dead but not dead. He's kind of a ghost right now, and he's trying to find Jack for he can rally an army and take down Aku. So we know what the Scotsman's doing, and he's trying to seek out Jack. So once again, I want to state, I can't wait to see what the Scotsman says to Jack when he realizes what type of mentality Jack has, how he's crazy to how he's just given up hope. He's very depressing. I'm very curious to see how he's going to interact with the Scotsman. And I wonder what the Scotsman's going to say about Ashley hanging around Jack, because Jack has always been that type of character to be solo. He never really has anyone with him or anything like that, and I'm curious to see what he's going to say. Like, I can already see it now that the Scotsman's probably going to say, like, oh, is that your woman? Like, are you getting married with her? I can already see the Scotsman saying something like that to Jack when it comes to Ashley and Jack's relationship. But as I've already stated, I feel like Jack's relationship with Ashley's more of a, like a father teaching their daughter type of relationship, like a mentor, like a sensei. That's what it looks like to me, but I could see the Scotsman saying something like that and, you know, making the fan base all riled up and stuff. That's something I can easily see happen in the future. So with all that being said, though, I need to talk about one of the big points of this episode that was really obvious towards the end, and it really just hit me so hard with the actual emphasis of Jack's face and the emotions he had on it. Jack has lived, as we know, for 50 plus years. Time has stopped. He has seen so many things. He's seen the horrors of the world. He sees how bad the world has come, and he's lost hope. I mean, he still clings on, barely, but overall he has lost hope because there's nothing he can do. He no longer has his sword that can kill Aku, and because of this, he just doesn't know what to do. And in this episode, when you see him trying to fight against these children that have been brainwashed, he's trying not to hurt them. If you look very closely in the fight, he's not trying to hurt them at all. He's shoving them off of him, but he's not trying to harm them in any way. And knowing how Jack is, Jack could easily kill them if he wanted. He could easily wipe them out and kill them, but he didn't do that because they were children, they were innocent, and they were brainwashed. They were under, you know, a spell, and so he didn't want to, you know, put them into any harm. He tried to save their life, and he threw this into Ashley's hands. For instance, her to save the children while he distracted the children. That's kind of what he was doing. And when you see the point at the end, when the children just all drop to the ground and their eyes are closed, Jack instantly assumes they're all dead. And I, myself, I thought they were all dead. And he just starts getting horrified. He's upset. He's like, no, no. And he just starts, you know, shaking and all that. And then he sees this vision. He sees the, like, horseman, which is what I'm assuming the Grim Reaper now, judging by the way the episode kind of focused on that. And when he was like, I'll come with you, it's kind of like Jack saying, I accept my fate, I'm willing to die, most likely commit suicide. And that was just such an impactful scene when Jack was just sitting there thinking of the worst possible outcome. It just shows you how broken he is as a person compared to what he was in the past. As we've seen countless times in the earlier seasons of Samurai Jack, Jack would go out of his way constantly to save villages. He would do anything in his power to save people, and he wouldn't think they're dead right at the start. He would try to save them, and then when, you know, what was done, maybe then they're dead. But he did everything in his power to make sure they would stay alive. But because of all the shit he has seen these past 50 plus years, he's lost hope. He thinks of the possible worst outcome. He doesn't have happiness. And when he's sitting there and he sees all of them laying on the ground, he just assumes they're all dead, and what he tasked Ashley to do was completely pointless. And so he just said, you know what, I'm just done. I want to die. And he went with the Reaper. And that scene was so powerful, and I love the way this season of Samurai Jack is really just nailing in Jack's character, giving him so much development and characterization, and his character already, from what we have seen from this season, after these past 5 episodes, his character, I love him so much more now than how I loved him in the past in the first 4 previous seasons. I loved how badass he was, but just seeing how much development he has gotten, how much he is changing, how much he has changed already, it's just something you don't normally see. And I just am very happy to see this journey and the way the writers are really showing that passion and how much they love this series when they write this with Jack's character. So just once again, all of the writers, to everyone working on this project of Samurai Jack, you're doing a tremendous job. You're doing such a good job. As a fan of the original Samurai Jack, I'm just so proud of what I have seen so far, because there's just been so many reboots I've seen in the past when it comes to cartoons or other shows I like, or television shows, movies, and they turn out to be absolute ass. And just to see how these creators, the writers of Samurai Jack, is just really appreciating the fan base, showing they love the fan base, they love this series, and they're giving us what we want. Just thank you so much. And also the surprises they give as well. That is what I truly respect. So, besides that, though, in Jack's personality of thinking of the possible worst possibility, and that is what's leading into wanting to kill himself at the end of the episode, we also have to factor in about Ashi's character and the kind of that entire dynamic at the beginning of the episode. Let's kind of explain that. So the episode opens up after the Scotsman with them back on the island. Jack, he tries to get them off the island, and they take, like, you know, this sea dragon. They get to, you know, shore and land, and then eventually he's like, okay, you know, I'm done, I'm leaving. Like, you know, they're splitting up, he's going his own path, you can go your own path. He just doesn't give a shit, and he's just moving on. Even though he was going to try to show her the proper path, he still said, you know what, go your own way. He's going his own way. It just shows he just given up. He doesn't really care. And eventually, she follows him, and then she seeks guidance. And he's like, no, I'm not teaching you and all that. And then she's like, why? Why would you do all this? And then you say no. And that entire conversation was to demonstrate what type of personality Jack has and how he thinks of the worst possibility. And because the way he said no to her, it's like it wouldn't matter at all. You're already too corrupted by evil. You have too much hatred inside of you. There's just no point. There's no point. Even if you might be interested in talking with me, which that's a miracle in of itself, you just have too much hatred inside of you. And he just automatically assumes it's pointless. He assumes everything he does is pointless. Nothing in life has a purpose because all hope is lost. There is no hope to defeating Aku. All of these things he said throughout the episode just shows his mentality and what we have seen since the start of Season 5. But now Ashley's seeing this, and it just shows you how broken he is. And I feel like one of the main characters that's probably going to snap him out of this is probably the Scotsman. I could see the Scotsman coming up to Jack, seeing how Jack acts. He's probably going to just slap some fucking sense into this man. It's like, what the fuck you doing and all that? Why are you acting like this? I can definitely see the Scotsman being the big role in changing Jack and making him overcome his demons inside of himself. I could easily see that happening. So, yeah, that's something I wanted to demonstrate, that Jack, he didn't even care about Ashley at all. He was pretty much giving up on her. He was giving up on the children. He gave up on, you know, defeating Aku. He was completely depressing the entire episode. Even though Ashley seems to, like, you know, have interest in wanting to help out. And speaking of her character, I need to kind of discuss her for a second. Ashley's character, she got a lot of development. Ashley really surprised me with her change. Now, we already saw these changes taking place in the last episode of Samurai Jack, and I complimented the fact that it wasn't thanks to Jack to why she changed her mind. It was thanks to her viewpoint on life and what she grew up with and what she saw, her own representation of life itself. And it wasn't thanks to Jack, you know, lecturing her as to what changed her mind. And once again, we get to see that throughout this episode. When Ashley changes sides to, you know, help out the samurai, which is Jack, it's not because of Jack. It's actually because of her entire viewpoint of life and what she was as a person in the first place. Let's think about her childhood. She saw many, you know, things that were very beautiful in the past, like the ladybug, which her mother crushed, or she saw the outside world, which was very beautiful. And she always grew up thinking that Aku made everything. Aku was the supreme god that made everything in the world, and everything she saw was what Aku made. And because of this, she assumed that Jack was like the devil going around destroying everything, destroying this beauty that, you know, God made. And that's why she was very upset, why she had a lot of hatred or anger inside of her, was because she assumed Jack was the one destroying the world. But she comes to find out that everything that she's been seeing and what was destroying the world wasn't actually Jack, it was Aku, which is why she was able to flip so easy, because she already had the viewpoint of the world was getting destroyed, and she loved the beauty of it. She loved the stars. We've already seen this a couple of times, and when you see how she flips over and helps out the samurai, it's just like she just changed her target, like her point of anger towards. She's no longer focusing her anger on Jack, she's focusing her anger on Aku, and so that's kind of how she was able to make that flip to his side without it really affecting her character, going against what we've already seen from her character. So she got development, but she also retained the person she already was. So, job well done. And I'm kind of curious on how Ashley is going to have the interaction with her mother in the future. I wonder if, you know, Ashley's going to try to kill, you know, her mother, or is Jack gonna do it, or are they gonna try to convince, you know, Ashley's mother to change sides? I'm curious to where that is going to go, because that's definitely gonna be something that is gonna be a big plot point in the future of this season of Samurai Jack. So that's about it. I mean, the episode was a very, very grim and depressing episode, one of the most depressing episodes, because we get to see Jack's personality from a different perspective. It wasn't just inside of his mind, him talking to himself, but it was an outsider's perspective of seeing how much he has changed, and it's so sad when you see that, and I like the direction so far with the way this episode is setting up for episode 6, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.